This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
Thanks for tuning in to Power Athlete Radio. This episode marks the first of several that polled the listening audience for questions. Power Athlete Nation hits us up with inquiries regarding programming, lifting, nutrition, and more. John, Luke, and Tex respond with intelligent, well-crafted points of education, then provide movie references to emphasize their points. It's business as usual as the guys lend their expertise on all things strength and conditioning. However, one question posed requires them to choose just one Power Athlete program to follow and then explain their reasoning for their choice. John says he's wasted 100 rounds trying to see if it was possible to bend a bullet. Luke claims that the new Point Break movie doesn't suck, which means that it obviously does. And Tex just wants someone to play spike ball with. These are just some of the highlights of episode 154. Now here's the show. The little white pill for them little white lines I'm smoking.
You are the intro today. I want to hear you fucking drop the premier podcast in strength and conditioning. So you're going to be the rolling. You got it?
The premier podcast in strength and conditioning. All right.
You can honestly, you can call whatever you want.
I'm going to need a little bit of excitement from you. Like, I'm not talking about rate coding or force production or challenging posture position through external dynamic movements. I'm about to set it off up in this motherfucking piece. You're getting ready to introduce Snoop Dogg in old school. That's what I want you. Think about this. He'll be like, bringing you live at Stereo City where we're slashing prices all day long. Power Athlete Radio, the premier podcast. I'm introducing you to your friend and my mentor, Snoop Dogg. Something like that. Let's get it. Set it off up in this piece.
All right, ready? Welcome to Power Athlete Radio, the premier podcast in strength and conditioning. Tex here in Washington, D.C., and I'm joined via phone with Luke Summers and John via Skype. So we are opening it up to Q&A from the audience, and we have a fantastic question to lead us off. John, you ready for this one?
I don't really classify myself as much as a talker, so I'm going to do my best to really take a backseat role and let you guys really lead, just because when I go back and listen to podcasts, I'm always like, dude, just shut up. But I'll try to give brief answers, really just smart hits, but I know what'll happen. I'll just end up just fucking running out the mouth.
Well, here we go.
Tex, now I gotta say, with you at leading the helm here with reading these questions, it feels like an inside the actor's studio vibe. Do you get that feel, John?
It's called Inside the Actors Guild.
Whatever. Thanks for the correction. I thought you weren't talking today.
I'm not.
Anyways, let's do it. Tex, rolling.
All right, first question. Do vegetarians eat animal crackers? This is from Philbert88.
Do we before we jump into that, John, do we know what the ingredients are of animal crackers? Can we look that up real quick?
Well, yeah, I'm sure we could probably figure it out.
Let's see, because I believe...
What are animal crackers? All right.
So there's a lot of information coming out that plants are sentient, right? So if we murder plants, let's say wheat.
Well, the idea is, plants and trees have been shown to be, what are they called?
Sentient.
Yes, sentient beings. And that's very true. I mean, if you look at forests and how they kind of group together and they use, James Cameron's,
Avatar.
Avatar isn't really that far off. I mean, there's some really interesting stuff that they found. So, the idea that you're actually ripping a plant or fruit or something from the tree, I mean, they believe will cause some form of trauma for that sentinel being.
So I guess with that said, it wouldn't be in a vegan's best interest to go with the animal crackers. But let's say you're not a vegan and you are an omnivore like me. I do eat animal products. When I typically eat animal crackers to limit and minimize the amount of stress and trauma and suffering for the animal cracker, I tend to eat the head first. So I bite the head off to remove and try to, to minimize that trauma and stress for the poor animal. Like if I'm doing a giraffe, I usually could just take that giraffe off right about the 13th vertebrae.
The ingredients for animal crackers are 13 crackers offer roughly 100 calories. They're made from enriched flour, which includes wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine, and they also have riboflavin, which is B2, folic acid, sugar, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, salt, baking soda, soy, lectins as an emulsifier, natural flavors, and spices, primarily nutmeg and mace. So, there was Diane Rogers did a great blog post on Robb Wolf's site. I think it was yesterday, talking about the interaction with her and her child or her two kids. They live on a farm. I was fortunate to go to their farm and have an amazing dinner during the Ancestral Health Symposium a couple years ago. And as kids that grow up on farms, they like to play in the water. So the kids were down in the creek, kind of where their water storage or whatever you could call it. Their natural ponds, and they go down there, collect crawfish, and play in the water. And I guess she had a play date over. And as they walked down there with their buckets to go and dig and play in the water, they came across a sheep that had obviously been attacked by a coyote. So, she kind of described the scene that there was blood everywhere. The eyes were eaten out. The whole insides were gutted out. And it just looked like a, crime scene out of the movies. And, her daughter, or I think her daughter is 8 or 10 years old, maybe a little bit younger, was pretty traumatized by this. And the friend was very traumatized. And she took it as an opportunity to talk to her daughter about, the pains and the real world that, this is how nature works. And, animals pass away in this way, in this, kind of idealistic vision that, like an elephant walking off into the distance to go to the elephant graveyard where it peacefully passes away and turns into the dust is not a realistic perception or image or even understanding of nature. And most animals, especially things like sheep, ruminant animals that, have been the deluxe meal of carnivores and predators for centuries, meet their demise in a pretty, harsh way. On a sidebar, Luke, you're going to appreciate this, but I watched The Reverend the other day, and that scene where the bear is attacking him might be one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen in a movie. So
yeah, I was. So when I saw that, I was with the clinic in the front row because that was the only seats left. It was the clinic and Mish's clinic, and dude, we talk about the tension through your shoulder girdle as stress hits you in training, and we also kind of make an analogy to or taxes, scary movie, your kids are fucking jamming you up. You just kind of get this stress and you carry it in your traps. Dude, I cramped. My traps were cramping during that scene because I was like, holy fuck.
I love when you hear these idealistic, people being like, oh, things are so shitty now. If only I could go back in time. I do. They need to watch that fucking scene. But somebody asked me the other day, kind of made a point about that, and I was like, oh, I completely agree. I would go back to the 1970s, and they were like, what? I was like, yeah, if I could go back in time to any deal, I go back to the 70s. Like, well, what would you take with me? I'm just my wife and kids. And I'd be awesome. I'd rock a mustache. I'd have bell bottoms. We'd have a black and white TV. And you know what? We'd fucking live in the 70s, dude. My kids would ride bikes and wear short shorts, dude. Those were great days to live in. And there'd definitely be no cell phones and fucking internet. But so to get off on this, so she takes this as a learning opportunity to talk to her daughter about nature. And the little girl was pretty upset. She goes to bed, and before she goes to bed, they're tucking her in. She starts crying again, and so they give us another opportunity to talk. And I guess her dad made a point. He's like, this is how nature works. that animal will, basically decompose, and the bones will turn into calcium, which will effectively feed the soil, which will, grow kale. And, that'll be something that will subside on and something will raise. And the little girl kind of shot up and was like, so wait a minute, like the bones become kale? And they're like, yeah, it enriches the soil. And, it's a process that's like the cycle of life, the circle of life. And I guess the little girl was like, well, then vegans can't be vegans, because if they're eating the kale that was processed and was grown based upon this animal's demise, then it's impossible for anybody to be a vegan. So it was just kind of a cute story. And of course, some vegetarian vegan jumps on there and wants to bring up some bullshit about how heart disease is, which obviously is the number one killer in America, is caused by animal products, which is just a blanket claim that's been perpetuated by the media, but unfortunately has been disproven so many times. But the problem we run into this country is people believe what they want to believe, not the truth. And just because it's the truth, probably makes it even harder to believe, because it doesn't fit your personal agenda. So
I guess with that said, I bet you there's some vegans out there that are eating animal crackers, but the reality of it is the soil that we grow and use to grow plants has nutrients from deceased animals. So it's a circle of life, so you can't avoid it. Is that what you're saying, Jay Willie?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, there you go. Well, good show, guys. What else do we?
You know what? I mean, what this really goes back to, and my hard thing, especially with like the vegan and vegetarian deal, is it always starts with this. It's healthier. Well, it's not healthier.
And that's that's one thing we talk about, John, at the seminar, is like when people, because this comes up during nutrition, it's like, hey, if someone's going to tell me it's healthier, you feel compelled to go to battle with that. But for anyone listening to this that may be a vegan or a vegetarian or whatever, and it's truly for like a moral high ground, we got kind of in a battle with a dude, and it's like, hey, listen, I just value animal life better than I value my health and performance. Then I won't argue with that. Then that's the decision you've made. You are in charge of yourself as your sole protect. Like you're in charge of protecting yourself and your family. If you want to value a fucking cow's life more, then do it. But don't tell me it's healthier, because there's so much information.
Well, that's
contradictory.
That's always the crux. It starts there, and then when you disprove that it's not healthier, and actually it's completely opposite of how we were designed to eat, more importantly, health and wellness, then instantly it becomes this moral high ground. I'm somehow morally better because I'm not going to make animals suffer to feed me. And it's kind of a insane argument in both ways, but
that's a hard belief system to break, John. So it's like that's where we go into Chuck Norris's approach, where it's like, let them believe it, then forget about it. You can't save those people.
Well, that's our deal. Like I'm never going to argue with somebody's belief in a belief system. I mean, when people buy into an ideology and they believe they're buying into something bigger than them, that is where wars have started. I mean, that's religion, and what camp you put yourself into as in terms of diet, in terms of this, I mean, all these things. I mean, these are big time ideologies, and people buy into this stuff, and that's where they really sit. And, my job is not to try to convince you otherwise, or that, I'm right and you're wrong. Not at all. My deal is about just providing the best information possible so that you can make the most educated choice for you as the individual. And if your choice leads you down this path and that's the path you want to go, then then I'm more than happy to support you. I follow, I think his name's Cameron Hayes on Instagram, who's a big bow hunter, and he's just super amazing shot with a bow. I wish I got to practice as much with my bow as 1/10 of what he gets. But he was, posts some really, really, big time kills. And I think he posted a picture of, he goes up and he hunts bears up in, I think in Alberta somewhere. And it was like, hey, this is his bear that I took. And, these things, they hunt them in terms of, not conservation, but this idea of like, you have to be able to limit the population because they really have no natural predators. And so, and if you have an out of control bear population, they will destroy everything. Not only will they, go after different animals, but you have to really work on kind of paring that down now that they don't have any natural enemies. And reading the comments are like, I can't believe you did this beautiful animal. I would gladly put a bullet in your head. And you're like, so wait a minute. You are so adverse to, me, harvesting this animal in the cycle of life, but yet you would gladly kill me as a result. So I don't get it. So you value animal life over human life way more. Like it's just I don't know, man. It's a weird deal, and I just always hope that people are trolling. That this is some 17-year-old kid who just wants to stir shit up by making a phony account and saying these things, because I just can't really wrap my head around people and this deal. But the internet's created this anonymity where you can basically say and do what you want, and there's no repercussions. But yeah, it's a strange deal.
Yeah, man. Well, I guess with that said, Tex, let's just go ahead and segue into more of like a more enlightening topic to talk about that won't take John into that dark place.
All right, so we got a couple training questions that I think will be short and sweet. So the first one, here we are. This is from Bruno Cocaru from Brazil. I want to know what you guys think about post-activation potentiation. Do you use it? If yes, how many interval time between the heavy load and the explosive activity?
First of all, I'd ask, what kind of athletes are you working with? I mean, the idea is like post-activation potentiation. It's the idea of like enhancing like muscular, like contractile force of like a previous contraction, I guess. It's like if I were to hit like a 5 RM back squat and then follow it up with like an explosive movement, is really that what they call that PAP, or that like post-activation potentiation. So the idea is that you overload the system, and then you force the body to do something dynamic, which we know as our manual resistance, which is the idea that by fatiguing neuromuscular pathways, we're going to follow it up with some form of dynamic movement, which is going to force the body to create new neuromuscular pathways to figure out how to do new things, which is not only a way to get stronger, but also a great training method. We do it quite often in a more advanced program, and we'll do it similar with like back squats or heavy pull or something, and then mix it with some form of plyometric dynamic movement. The first, we used it quite often, but the first time I ever heard it put into a program and with great efficacy was from Dr. Romanoff, talking about training guys for the 40-yard dash and training NFL players about having them do heavy triples on a back squat or a front squat, then immediately having them walk over and do flying starts where you get about a 10-yard run and then you accelerate for 10 yards. And then they were having another one where they were doing it with box jumps, and they were doing broad jumps, and they were really kind of mixing, kind of periodizing it in. So is it a benefit? Is it is it good? Yes, it's very good. The thing becomes though, at which type of athletes are you training? What's the application? Do you understand how to apply it? Is there some form of loading? And on top of it, what's the base level of conditioning of those athletes? Are they conditioned enough to be able to do a heavy, tight movement and follow that up with some form of dynamic movement in such a way that it is of benefit? Because what we see is...
and John, that's totally is like, I think what I would say is you're going to sprinkle this in for like a WOD for your Gen Pop. Don't pretend that you're doing advanced type of training. This is something that is implemented and consistently applied for trained athletes who know how to reduce and produce force. And what comes to mind, Tex, is one of your bedtime articles that you posted about preparing for plyometrics, right? And it's like, go read Tex's article and put your athlete through these assessments to see if they're even ready for plyometric training, because odds are you have months of training ahead of you just to prepare them to do this type of training. I wouldn't put it in a Gen Pop class unless you're just trying to have fun with something. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I just wanted to kind of throw that in there, John. Maybe steer the discussion that way.
No. I mean, it's like the problem is not the problem, but a problem we run into with a lot of strength conditioning is there's so many different ways to skin the cat. There's so many different ways to really attack this thing. Where we really differ is the idea that everything follows a progression, that, we bring in beginning athletes that are just getting introduced to a barbell. We just want to do a basic linear progression just to give them enough reps under load so that they end up developing movement patterns and, reinforcing those patterns. And, all of a sudden, once they get good at it, we're using weight to challenge posture and position with those movement patterns, and we kind of linear progress it. So that becomes our primary goal. And then the minute when they get into a more advanced template, like an intermediate type deal, now we can start doing what I always called contrast training, and it's also known as PAP, or the post-activation potentiation. Is the idea that you're going to do these movements and then immediately follow them up with some form of dynamic explosive movement. And we use it quite often in the Field Strong programming, especially in the last 2 cycles. We've been doing a primarily sprint prep Olympic lifting plyometric program to get people to really sprint, which actually goes really well with Texas speed program. And the idea was, we were coming out of the winter, we'd done a lot of heavy work. I wanted to get people into shape, doing some plyo conditioning, just help build a base level of conditioning, because where we see people get hurt when they start sprinting isn't really the fact that, they're, in what I'd say in shape. It's just that they're not in shape to sprint, or they're not used to doing dynamic max effort type movements. If you jog 400 meters in between, 50 air ball or 50 wall balls, you're in probably pretty good shape because that's hitting your lungs. But now all of a sudden we ask somebody to do a max effort type sprint, they're going to hurt themselves just because, their legs and their bodies and their muscles really aren't able to, or just aren't prepped to do that type of dynamic movement. So, with, the PAP type stuff, if the athlete's strong, he understands the movement patterns, and he's in good enough shape to actually get useful work. Like, for example, if he comes in, he squats a heavy triple, and he's so taxed that, it takes him 5 minutes to recover between sets, and he goes over and you ask him to do, hey, we're going to do, continuous triple broad jumps, which is the idea that you're going to take one broad jump and you're going to, tie it seamlessly into the next one, into a third one. And, you want to do 2 or 3 reps or, of triples on this. And, he jumps 4 inches because he's so tired, he can't really, harness himself. Is there really efficacy in doing it? So there has to be kind of a balance of not only are they in shape, are they in good enough shape? And I wrote an article on Talk to Me Johnny years ago called Do I Have to Be in Shape? That really talked about this. Have I created a base level of fitness or a base level of conditioning enough to be able to do this type of training, so that it's both meaningful? And then on top of it, do I understand how and where this fits into the cycle of my programming, what level at which my athlete is at, what is he training for, and ultimately, what am I trying to get out of this? The idea that I'm just going to use this in a WOD is a terrible idea because, you need complete max effort type movements. If I squat a heavy triple and then go in and I got to do, 5 max effort type box jumps, and, those have to be, 80+% better than what you think you can do for a 1RM. It just has to really find in. So, I've used it pretty extensively, especially when I'm working with kind of power athletes. It worked really well when I was working with bobsledders and also with football players, and even some of the, as you know, Luke, we did that a lot with Christian, where we would pull a heavy deadlift or squat and then have him do the box overs. So, yes, it works very well. It's a very real principle, and there's a lot of people that really hang their hat and make their money that way. Do we use it? Yes, but it has to be at the right time in the right place and done with the right volume and intensity to really get the results.
And if I can add in, John, just the prudency changes for a novice and a trained athlete. So we still apply it to both athletes in Feel Strong, but the purpose we're going for with the novice is going to be a decreased excitation, which will help them relax and get more benefit from the plyometrics. While we're working with a trained athlete, it's going to be increase so that we can then get the most of the plyometrics as well. So prudency changes a little bit. And I'll tell you one interesting thing from experience with the MR. That's one way that I can tell a novice versus a trained athlete. So the rep that they start to turn on will tell you everything you need to know. Rep 1, they're already on. That's their best rep. It's going to be a trained athlete. And rep 3 and 4, that'll show you novice.
So there you have it, people. I think we crushed that one, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Should we move on? We want training question here. Somebody's asking for your phone number, Luke. I don't know his name.
Ask him which one, and I'll direct message her my burner number so Ashley doesn't find out.
It's a dude.
Your burner, your the fucking bat phone.
The bat phone. There's only a few people who have the bat phone number. I don't even think Tex has it. Only Harry Shaw, and Tyler Mitten have my fucking bat phone. How sad is that?
Do we want to stick with training or go nutrition here?
Let's hit training and then drop into nutrition.
Okay. So this is going to be an easy one. How do you guys develop stability in the bottom of a squat? Rep work, pause work. What do you guys like? Thanks. This is from United Front Barbell.
Tex, just go. I know you're like, you want this so bad. Go, Tex.
Yeah, I'll take a back seat. I know. Yeah. Okay, go.
Where do I even begin here? So we were talking about post activation, but for this one, we can talk about pre-activity preparation. So stability, our way of developing that is definitely from the ground up. So we set your posture, and without posture, you will never be stable in the bottom of the squat. So our way.
So Tex, what do you think? What do you think he means by what are going to be signs of instability at the bottom of the squat? What do you think? Let's try and break those 4 or 5 things out.
I'm going to say loss of posture, either in the butt wink or kind of trunk case forward.
Valgus knee.
Interior
tibial.
What I'm imagining is instability is not knowing how to breathe. The most people that I've seen that I do what's called the lumbar lambada, where all of a sudden they get at the bottom and it looks like they're like, trying to do the lambada at the bottom of the squat. Just a lot of people don't really understand about setting your breath, clamping the molars down, how to really create tension.
The Valsalva effect.
I mean, that was probably one of the most disconcerting and amazing things to me when I started working with the CrossFit community was this idea that people didn't understand how to create tension. And little things like when you put your, hand on the bar, the idea of grabbing the bar and bringing your lats down and driving up and creating torque in that upper body, or taking in a big breath, drawing in your trunk and filling that belly full of air. And then, as you get to the bottom, driving the knees out, trying to spin them on those dinner plates, trying to crack a walnut in your butt cheek. I mean, all these cues that if you've been to the our seminar, you've heard, all of us use, is about creating tension through the entire system. And, watching people, squat or pull or really do anything, it's amazing that people don't, haven't learned it. And I think it's because they've never been coached. I mean, for example, this morning, I wanted to warm up with a little bamboo bar. So Nate, who, the bamboo bar is basically, well, really everything's Nate's kryptonite, but the bamboo bar is Nate's extra super kryptonite. So we loaded up, and Nate's pretty strong. He's a 345 bencher. I mean, which at 200 pounds is pretty decent. And he puts anything approaching any decent weight on the bamboo bar, and it's just all over the place. And I end up working up to 275 for a set of 8 on the bamboo bar, which is a pretty good bench. And he's just like, man, you're able to push it in straight lines, and I can't get anywhere near that. Why is it? I'm like, dude, you just don't know how to create torque in the system. You don't know how to create stability, and more importantly, you don't understand the position, because the bar will find its natural position, and the more you fight against it, the more it'll have. And so we did that for a warm up, and then we hit some floor press. And he's a strong dude, but just that inability to really create tension in the system. And it's something I learned, playing football. I mean, the idea that if you were to hit somebody with a wet noodle model versus a hammer, the hammer has to be rigid, and you have to be. It's the same thing with throwing a punch. The punch has to be fluid, and you have to be able to snap that punch out at the right exact moment to make that thing, be a hammer. So, that idea of creating tension, and, Dr. Ant is great with talking about task specific tension. And
attention to the task. Attention to the task is what he likes to say.
Yeah, and that's something when you lift weights about basically being able to create tension when you need it most, and that was something that really struck me early on in our across the football seminars, is just getting people under load and then just getting them into position with the bar on their back and being like, okay, great, we're just going to hold you in this position. I want you to feel tight in your trunk and kind of like poke and prod them, this, and like all of a sudden they realize like I have all these systems that have to work in unison. So I would say it's not really, learning how to breathe or really have a lack of breath. For me, my great trick is to clamp down my rear molars. I take in a breath and I don't push my belly up, but I kind of draw it in, and then I pull down, and it kind of helps me torque. And I basically drive against the bar, drive my knees out, flex and just hit that movement and try to create tension through the whole deal. So, and then over time, you just naturally do it. It's not something you even have to think about.
And the dead bug allows you the opportunity to practice that. So
yes.
We don't want you breathing and losing, kind of breathing through your belly up. It's breathing through your lungs, and you develop that tension, which will equal the barbell. So we can challenge that by raising arms or lowering legs, just adding some form of stress. And I know you're going to break underneath the barbell if we're just lowering both legs at the same time, for example, and you start to breathe out of your belly. So we can kind of test to see where you'll fail, I guess, in the stability of the bottom of your squat. If you can knock that out, then guess what we do next? Kind of test in the Spider-Man and see your hamstring, see your hip stability if we pick both hands up off the ground. So we're not only testing to see where you're going to fail in your stability at the bottom of the squat, but we're also giving you the opportunity to correct and master that.
Solid. I guess I'm still just confused. Where do people have lack of stability? Do you think he's talking trunk, John, or is it like hips, ankles? Is it glute amnesia? Well, one thing I would ask too is if this is a specific person this guy's talking about, how long have they been lifting weights, and what does the programming look like? If they've been in CrossFit and you squat once every 2 weeks, what do you expect? Because if you talk about the tensioning too, John, I know you're dying to jump in, but that's the beauty of being a good CrossFitter, is minimizing the amount of tension required to perform a task so you don't blow out early.
Well, I'm watching his Instagram lifts right now, and it's not too hot, United front barbell. But go ahead, John.
So it might be personal.
Well, the idea of where are most people I guess unstable in the squat, it's actually through the full range of motion. So I've seen very few people that were, they could stand in a loaded position with the bar on their back, and it's called a walkout. All of a sudden just in that position that here I am in the static deal, I'm going to put the bar on my back, I'm going to, stand with a heavy barbell. And, we use that in, some of the powerlifting guys I'm working with now. I mean, before the contest, we'll do some heavy walkouts just so that they get used to that load and all. And I love seeing it under film, because all of a sudden what you see in that loadout or that walkout ends up becoming a reality in the movement. If they can't stand in a isometric hold with weight supported, they're going to struggle, because the first thing that's going to happen is if the upper back breaks, everything else is going to crumble. If the knees become valgus, and we have dynamic valgus knees, that becomes, very problematic. And, the other thing too is most people are extremely weak in the trunk. I mean, the idea that, the only midline stability training you need to do is loading under a barbell, for many athletes is okay, but for a lot of people need to do just a tremendous amount of trunk work. That's why in all of the programs I write with Field Strong, and anybody that's listening to this that does Field Strong, Jack Street Grindstone, any of the things that I put out, will know that there is almost a dedicated section every single day called trunk work. And they will know that in those warm-ups, it is all some form of trunk work, because, for me as an individual, I think that's where I made my money as an NFL player. I mean, I had guys that I played with that had horrific back injuries, and I was always thinking man, I got to just avoid this, because that back injury was the coup de grace. So, I mean, yeah, I had knee issues, but, on the shoulder, but for some reason because I put so much time and work into really training that trunk. And I use the word trunk because obviously you guys know I hate the word core, because it reminds me of fucking people on Boosie balls that look like apples. But, it's just really been a huge part of our stuff. So basically, if you're unstable in the bottom of the squat, one, you probably need to squat more, and 2, you need to be doing more trunk work, and 2, you need to get with somebody that can teach you these movements. And the other fun one is if you want a quick fix, buy a safety squat bar. You'll see people that don't know how to get their upper back into a nice tight position, and people that have really weak hips, if all of a sudden you start changing the loading pattern. So get some coaching.
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan, Tex, of like hammering the side pillars as well, in addition to Spider-Man's and your Spider-Man, your seesaw walk, your dead bug. I just like the side pillar starfish as well to call out any sort of instabilities.
Yeah. It could be anything. We'd have to watch him lift, but I think we covered all the bases more or less.
I would say, can I just give, I'm going to say it depends. So let me draw 2 personalities. Like if you have if you're an emotional eater, keto's not going to work for you. Yeah. It's just not. Like it's hard. It is hard. And I think you're going to be more successful on the leaning protocol. And with that said, we don't do like if it fits your macros, you can have a Pop-Tart for carbs. We're not like food quality does matter. But in doing all the protocols personally, the keto's hard, and the leaning protocol allows that balance that I think you're more happy to be hungry on an isocaloric approach than you are to be hungry ketogenic. You know what I mean? John, does that make sense?
Well, yeah. Like herein lies the issue. Really the secret to life and really the secret to all this stuff, diet and nutrition, is balance. If your idea of leaning out is, and I don't necessarily know what that means. I mean, it usually means somebody just wants to lose some body fat. Something like the leaning protocol, hence the name, will work extremely well. And the reason being is because it's alternating days with different macronutrient ratios. So we're going to give you, carb up days. We're going to, give you some low carb days, and we're going to try to cycle through them, because the idea is that your body's always searching for this idea of homeostasis. And the minute that it finds homeostasis, and that's why a lot of people fail. I mean, that's why almost every single diet in America works at some point, but then fails. And the reason being is whenever people get into a diet, it's usually changing. People aren't dieting into their present deal. If you're obese, this is what I've been doing. Now I'm going to make a change, and it works. But the problem is our bodies are based on this idea of homeostasis. So all of a sudden you lose weight, but then what does the body think? I have a natural set point within it. And let's say I'm a 300-pound man, and all of a sudden I, bust my ass. I work out extra. I change my diet. I do all these things, counting calories, calorie restriction here, and I get down to 265 pounds. Great. Awesome. I met my goal. Now I have to maintain or do more or do something change to try to push my goal even farther. But then what do people do? They keep doing, or they lax off a little bit. I hit my goal. And then all of a sudden what happens? The body instantly goes back to what its set point was, because it takes months and months and months of being at that present body weight to reset that, that set point. So what the body does is when it sees it losing weight, it all of a sudden, lowers the metabolism. You don't feel as good, all these other things. So the idea of diets really just kind of fails in a lot of ways. But what we've really pushed with our protocols is the idea of food quality, the idea that you're going to eat real foods. And, we offer people a bunch of different approaches to try to fit what's best for them. For a long time, I kind of bought in a little bit into the calories in, calories out deal, and that it's about, calorie balance and energy expenditure and this, and that if your BMR is, 3,000 calories a day and you eat 3,000 and you exercise into a deficit, all of a sudden you should lose. But the problem is that doesn't work. And it's failed. And, and if it did work, then why are so many doctors obese? Because that's what they prescribe. I mean, every doctor you go to when you start dealing with people that are obese is, hey, you need to exercise more, you need to eat less. And you're like, okay, so if calorie restriction was the magic, bullet that people think it is, then we wouldn't have problems with obesity. I read an interesting study that was talking about what happens to people when they go on exogenous insulin. So we have a kind of an interesting deal in this country where we have type 1 and type 2 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics are people that their body, their pancreas no longer produces insulin. So what do? We give them exogenous insulin to backfill what their body is not doing. How do we treat type 2 diabetics? The same exact way. But what do we know about type 2 diabetics? Their bodies are no longer insulin sensitive. So what that means is their body is producing insulin. It's just they are not able to get the result that we're looking for from the present amount of insulin. So what we do is we give them more exogenous insulin to try to, have the body take notice. So in essence, it's like treating an alcoholic with more alcohol. And if you look at all of the different information, one thing happens to type 2 diabetics when you start giving them exogenous insulin. They end up all gaining weight, regardless of what their diets look like. A lot of people still exercise, still do this, but the predominant thing is that they end up gaining weight. And why is that? Because more insulin, more storage hormone. So, I mean, the idea is, I think what we've really done is we've really just, failed in a lot of ways, not only with, recommending diet protocols and, just really in big pharma in a lot of ways, but sorry to get off on a soapbox, but case in point, you want to lean out. The easiest thing to do is follow lean protocol. What we do is we alternate between, different macronutrient ratios, which gives enough variety and, helps the body fight out of homeostasis and, allows you to keep working. But the biggest deal is that, we send it over, just tell me what to eat. It's all basically eating real foods. I refuse to believe that if it fits your macros, will ever make sense. And I know there's some really, really sharp people that believe it, but it doesn't work. It just hasn't.
And John, I think we well, I was just going to go, like, anecdotally, man, we've tried almost everything. And, like, there's without a doubt, when you eat shitty, like, it feels shitty. And the training is shitty. And everything's, like, shitty. So it's, one thing people got to realize is, like, this is the stuff, the products that we put out are a product of things we have tried. And if it fucking worked for us, we would recommend it. And when we had Dr. Wiley on, he's like, yeah, it might get you better body comp, but let's take a look under the hood, And that's where people don't take the time to get their blood work and see this shit. But
it's the reason the It Should Fit Your Macros is so popular is because it's like, hey, I was eating 2 cheeseburgers, and you know what? I'm going to eat 1 cheeseburger. So I'm going to do some calorie restriction. I don't have to change that much. I just have to change the amount. And like telling people they can eat the same things as long as they can fit it in. And, dude, we fought this fight a long time ago when, the powers that be were trying to tell us, with the zone and Barry Sears that, you can stay in the zone if you put fucking spray butter on a Pop-Tart. That the idea that there was this magic macronutrient ratio that if you ate within the zone, it would safeguard you from all this other shit. And that, I was sitting at a CrossFit event when they gave the talk that you can zone with beer, potato chips, and beef jerky, and Slim Chips, not beef jerky. And while that, can happen, you can technically stay in a 40-30-30. There's no way there's no magic macronutrient, and I always love it if it fits your macros. What the fuck does that mean? Right? Like, let's take a step back. Your macros. So there's some magical computer that you can put yourself into that'll spit out your perfect macros. I mean, the closest we've ever seen is with Dan Reardon's Fitness Genes. They go and they analyze all the genes, and I got a deal back that said I'm extremely insulin sensitive. So what that means is I'm insulin efficient. That means that my body does more with less. So Luke, on the other hand, body is extremely
totally opposite end. Yeah,
totally opposite. He's insulin. He's not efficient with insulin, so his body needs more. Now, what that means, and just pure and fucking simple language, is I'm more apt to eat a lower carb diet, while Luke is apt to eat a higher carb diet. So, I mean, and that makes sense. Like, not everybody's the same. So, it's kind of like, I've looked at other diet stuff other people are doing, and, most people are similar to us in that they usually start somewhere isocaloric with a balanced, 33 kind of thirds diet. They find, basically off of like, basic BMR calculation, they try to figure out like, hey, okay, what's your BMR? And then they try to, factor in, how many calories you're going to burn for exercise. And from there, they, just figure a balanced diet. And then, as you diet down, people have different approaches. One is, let's pull fat. which is, pretty standard in terms of, most people in this country who still believe that fat is a bad thing. And that's really just the standard old guard. The idea that, let's keep, carbs and protein high. We'll just yank fat out of the diet. So for somebody like me, that's, extremely efficient with the carb, if you start pulling fat from my diet and just giving me higher protein, higher carb, then that doesn't help me the same way. Now, if you run into somebody like Luke, for example, that protocol will work very well for him. For somebody like me, it would actually make more sense to actually pull carbs and some fat so that if you're trying to reduce caloric load, but you know what? We also know that, reducing caloric load doesn't always work the same way. So, you're kind of in this, and if you guys have been to the seminar and heard me get up and give the nutrition talk, which can be anywhere from 45 minutes to 4 hours, depending on, what you talk about. I've seen bodybuilders and I've seen extremely lean people, single digit body fat in great shape that were eating a high carb, high protein, low fat diet. I've seen people that were shredded off of a moderate protein, high fat, no carb diet. I've seen people off a low protein, low fat, high carb diet be shredded. I've seen people that ate higher carb, moderate protein, higher fat diets is shredded. Every single macronutrient ratio that I've examined, there is somebody in that camp that champions that and is fucking shredded.
Now, John, what do you think? Now, I'm going to jump ahead of you. Isn't the common goal that they also train consistently and they're consistent with their diet and as hard as they plan their meals, they're training in the gym?
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I hate to beat a dead horse, but what are you training for? I mean, if the whole idea is to lean out, then you know what? Great. Then, do we care what performance looks like? No. All right. Well, then let's employ some other methods. If your whole deal is to lean out, let's figure a fancy way to do some caloric restriction, which just looks like fasting. Let's figure out, how many calories you should eat. Let's, do some aerobic base. Let's, figure out some infrared saunas, and if you really want to fucking, trim down and get down to, 4 or 5% body fat, we'll hit you over to Tyler, who will put you in a bath of Epsom salts, for, with super hot water for 45 minutes. And all of a sudden you'll come out looking like a supermodel. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what does it look like? And I think the hard thing with what a lot of people see is they see, hey, this works for this person. Well, that person just figured out what worked for them. So we see it all the time. Hey, this is me. I stand up and I look here. And I think at the end of the day, if you can eat real food and, the idea of I got to have a cheat meal every day. I mean, it's just dude, I just think there's just so many misconceptions about diet and nutrition that's not only perpetuated through people that its only interest is separating you from the money in your wallet. And then you have, a bunch of doctors and a bunch of people that because they have an MD on their chest figure they know something about it. But the problem that I run into is most of the doctors that I've met are really unhealthy and don't know shit about nutrition. The idea that, hey, well, it's just, when you talk to a guy like, Tom Incledon, who's done blood work on tens of thousands of people, there's just some very, very simple truths. The people that eat a varied, Roy G. Biv type diet of real foods, regardless of macronutrient ratio, are healthier than people that don't. The people that exercise a minimum of 6 hours a week are in great shape, regardless of what the macronutrients really look like. So if you can eat real foods and exercise 6 hours a week, and I know that sounds really easy, but you think about that's 45 minutes 45 minutes 7 days a week or an hour every day of doing either lifting weights, some form of aerobic work, doing something, you want to go and do gymnastics body or ROM-WOD or something. I mean, whatever it looks like, and you want to do supplement your training. If you are doing something every single day, then, your chance of being in great shape is exponential. And I think a big thing that I haven't really figured out is there was this, and I don't know when it fucking happened, but everybody became so fearful of overtraining. That was that one blows me away. In gyms, it's you can only train 4 days a week. You hit the upper body twice. I got to be in and out of the gym in 45 minutes. I'm like, dude, it's fucking bullshit. the problem is and we've seen this, dude. We've seen it in ourselves. We've seen it when we went to the commercial gym. How many people legitimately are fucking grinding for 60 minutes? You know, like how many people are in there just fucking hammer? No, dude, it's probably about 20 minutes worth of work with about fucking 2 hours of bullshitting and walking around and checking yourself out in the mirror. So like this shit isn't rocket science, but the problem is that like people aren't realistic, and it's like, well, I don't want to eat that diet. Well, that's fine because I want to eat, cheap. I want to eat cheap food. I want to sit down and eat a whole bag of fucking Pringles, and I want to do this and this. Well, that's fine, but like there is no have your cake and eat it too. There's no way for me to out supplement a shitty diet. There's no way for me to like figure out your perfect macronutrient ratio that allows you to eat whatever the fuck you want and still be in great shape and be healthy. Now, are there outliers? 100%. Can you take a shitload of drugs that allows you to skew it and fucking basically change lead into gold? Yes, 100%. Like you can. I remember Dave Tate told me once that if you take enough drugs, regardless of what you put in the fire, you can turn it into energy and you can turn it into fuel and coal. So, I mean, that's another big thing. I mean, what you guys are seeing in terms of the internet, what people are putting out, you don't always know what's behind the curtain. So,
yeah, and John, I'd like before we jump into that, let's just cut it.
Okay.
Right, and let's go to positive text. Let's go with the question on the forum.
I'm not trying to get negative. I just, the thing is that, and I'm not trying to go down into negative town. I'm just telling you, like, what we've been doing in this country and like, this is what I don't understand is that when you go back and you hear people say these things over and over again, and you don't see it work on a mass scale, you either have to take a step back and say, maybe the message we're putting out isn't working, because not everybody can be fucking lazy. I mean, it's like you see a person that's overweight and be like, well, obviously they fucking eat too much and they're lazy. And you're like, well, what if they're working out every day? What if they're caloric restricting and they're not meeting their goals? Then what is it? They're like, well, they must be lying. It's like, and I had a client, the dude was eating perfect and dude was training, doing all stuff. And I'm like, and I remember looking at the guy and being like, what you're showing me in this meal log doesn't equate to what I'm seeing physically. And I was like, this guy has to be full of shit. And you know what? Maybe he's not. Maybe he really was doing that. And maybe, what he was doing in other ways wasn't helping him, or he wasn't training enough. I mean, who knows? I mean, at that point, that's when you send to a guy like Tom Incledon, and you're like, dude, let's get the blood work done. What is going on under the hood of the car that we're not seeing? Is it inflammation because you can't sleep? It's like all of a sudden your sleep is shit, and then you're going to put on body fat because of cortisol, and you're having all these other problems. Well, the most perfect diet in the world isn't going to fix that. It's kind of like
for sure.
So, all right, go on. I'm sorry.
All right, so positive twist here. This is from the forums. A fun question we all answered. With everything being equal, time was enough, no travel, nutrition on par, and sleep was good, what program would you be doing and why? Luke, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I'll jump into it. I think, and I hope it's fucking still jive, but I would like to have basically double sessions of just everything about Field Strong is beautiful to me. And then probably, like, obviously you need that Jack Street in there once or twice a week. But so I'd be following Field Strong-esque with some sprint work as well, because I want to fucking stay faster. I don't want to be one of those guys. Listen, I'm 33 years old. People say once you hit 30, everything goes downhill. Dude, what did The Rock say, John? At 42, he's not even began to peak?
No, The Rock said he got in the best shape of his life at 43, which I'm totally in.
So I want to stay on The Rock's track, and I want to follow that line, and I just want to try and keep my speed up. Not like the fastest guy, but I want to get faster. And then, but all of this has to come into like some sort of play, like some sort of sport, some sort of adventure. Whether it's like, I know like Dwayne Fishel is one of our guys. He's been doing a lot of like mountain biking and off-road biking and shit. Like that sounds cool. Fucking get back into flag football with those boys from the Lantern, go win a national championship. But they're all just like, they're falling apart, except for my buddy Jupe, who I'm with right now. But so like just something like that is like competition based, like leading to the sport and competition. And that's what, I think a lot of the being busy and the travel and stuff kind of takes away, is like you can't join any weekend warrior rec league, shit like that. There's really no culmination to the training, So that's where my headspace is at.
Me personally, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I like when I program the Field Strong stuff. I wish that we trained at like noon during the day and could do all that stuff. The problem is for us.
That's a good point too, John. Like,
I'm up at like 5:30, and it's like I'm trying to sneak out the house before the baby wakes up, and then all of a sudden the fucking clock strikes like 7:45, and I got to bail because I got to go home and make breakfast and get the little kids to school and do that, and then I got to run home and get ready to get here. So something like a grindstone and kind of Jack Street that we can fit into a better template. But we still we've been going out and doing our sprint stuff on Wednesdays, and we try to get more conditioning and stuff on the weekends. But to me, Jack Street's a very, very pointed, sharp implement, very cool program for what it does, which is about put on people. But for me, I get really excited when I see the Field Strong stuff. I think, fuck, man, I wish I had the time to really, because we tried it, we just couldn't really give it the fucking this coffee maker. Did you hear that?
Yeah, we couldn't give it the attention it deserved. Because just at the level which we train, John, like I was talking this morning, I went to a global gym and trained just some, Pecosaurus Rex chest attack. And we were in and out like 40 minutes. And it's like the amount of aerobic base you tap into affects your high level power output. You know what I mean? So it's like, you want to give Field Strong proper justice. You got to let it go like 3 hours. I think 3 hours is like a solid training session to like get all of that shit out,
Sure. No, it's
that's not practical.
Yeah, it can be kind of spun down, but the problem becomes like there needs to be a fair amount of like pre and post workout type stuff. I think
exactly, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like all the shit that because the stuff like we follow Jack Street, like we follow Grindstone, but we do like there's even more that we do in the gym that like we can't unleash on the people because they'd be like, oh, it's too much, I can't handle it. Like the program won't work if I don't check every box off, So it's like
we
I
also think about it, pre-train heroic. When I first, if you guys were around in the early days at Field Strong, we had people quitting in droves because it was too much training. It's too much programmed. You were giving too much. And so that was interesting to me because I was like, my comment is, well, why are you quitting? Just do what you can. Well, I don't want to do this if I can't do everything. And I was like, I just was like, and I'm sure there are people that may be listening to this that send me this email, and I fucking wanted to find your address and come kick you in the fucking balls because I'm like, well, dude, like that type of fucking attitude. So, we've kind of pared it back, but, in a lot of ways, to really be able to like really glean out the fucking gold in Field Strong, it was a lot of the workouts, a lot of the, dynamic stuff. So, we still do a lot of things, but, for me, it's just the Olympic lifting just fucking kills my shoulder. So, I we'll still do a bunch of dynamic pulling and that, but I just can't do full variances of the lifts anymore, which just is fucking hurts my feelings because I really love the Olympic lift. And, you still try to do the jumps, but, if you have the time and you're a fucking fire breather and not a 40-year-old dad of 3 that has to race home to fucking make his kids breakfast and eggs, fucking dive into Field Strong. Dude, literally dive into that thing and like suck the marrow out of it. That's what it's there for. That stuff is all based on some of the best training that I've ever done and some of the best training of the athletes I've worked with and some really killer programs. And so, when I put that stuff out there, it always makes me like wish I could go back and be a 23-year-old professional athlete that didn't have a wife or kids, and my only job to bang heavy weights and then go out and try to slay broads.
So, I guess what I also want to text Joseph, but like if you're Grindstone and Jack in the basics and Jack Street are still legit, but like what Field Strong is pared down to do, and I loved it was just so simply put by who's our man Born to Run? Remind me his name.
Chris McDougall.
Chris McDougall. He's like, just be useful. And like, what better way to prepare someone to be generally useful than build them into an athlete? with athletic style training, and that's what I want to be. It's just consistently useful for whatever the task is, you know. So, sorry to cut you off, buddy.
No, John just nailed what I'm training for, pretty much. So I do have the time for Field Strong every morning, and the reason is I'm on the East Coast, and I don't start getting emails from Luke or getting yelled at until like at least 11 a.m. over here. So I do have enough time, so I follow Field Strong. The only thing I would change is if I have a fucking training partner. So the hardest part is just training solo. So I'm missing that competition, just fucking and push from other people. So I have to find creative ways to motivate myself. And the other thing I would add is Saturdays would just be freaking recess. So whether it's like ultimate frisbee, pick up basketball, fucking spike ball is my new obsession, but I don't have anyone to play with. Or a classic Ruiz surf and turf. Just find ways to get.
First of all, what's going on with Ruiz, man? There's like Rip Rap and the Misfits. I mean, dude, he's changing things. Like, you know, I know he's into rebranding, but I can't even follow the rebranding anymore. I gotta like fucking wrangle him in. I mean, I don't know if anybody can at this point. I mean, you know, it's like you can't hope to contain him. You can only hope to like encircle him a little bit. Yeah.
Well, in terms of, he still puts some videos up, and Saturdays I just try to do those. And Luke, every time we travel, I don't know if you can tell just how fucking excited I am. I'm like a dog that the owner comes home. I'm like, dude, what do you want to do? Let's do this. Let's do that.
And Luke's like, hey, let's hit the local meatery and try to consume 8 pounds of flesh. And Tex is like, no, Spike.
Well, John, let me ask you this. All right, and I mean, why not just continue the perpetual bashing of the clinic? What do you think is worse for Tex? Pairing Tex with the clinic or Tex training alone?
You know, the problem is that
because I think the clinic will manipulate you into cutting corners and cutting the training short. Because he's like water. He will find the easiest path. Where I like view the training like find the hardest path and attack it with the fury of 1,000 suns. You know, that's where I see the best results.
I tried to, you know, the problem is that the clinic is so just mellow, even keel, like non-exciting. Like I always am like, can I just get a little bit of enthusiasm? Like, give me a little bit. Like, let's get excited. Like, I feel like, you know, just, I don't know. He's a bit of a succubus. I love him, but he definitely is, you know, like, I'll just give you probably one of my favorite training partners in the world was Kyle Turley. Because Kyle was, like, so fucking wound up every day. And, like, every set was, like, the last set we were ever going to do. I remember, like, we were, like, banging heavy weights. And Kyle was like, you know, like no matter what Kyle did in the weight room, I was going to one up him. Just it's fucking doesn't matter what it is. Like if Kyle was going to bench 225 for 10, I was going to try to bench fucking 450 for 10. Like I was going to like humiliate him so bad in everything. And the best part about it is he was like, after everything, like the minute he saw it, he was like trying to give me all of his energy. So he was like some of my best training days were with Kyle, and you know he was just that type of person that just had that kind of like infectious you know energy to kind of push out, and you know that's the type of thing. The other thing too, which is nice, is to really train with dudes that are seriously fucking strong and are serious about what they're doing, like aren't fucking around. And I think when you start lifting heavy weights and the poundages get up to where you know, somebody might lose a finger or get killed, I think at that point you got to be locked in. And so it kind of pulls the bullshit out of a little bit. But, you know, today as I was coming in to work out, I was really just tempted just to go to the 12 and fucking with a set of headphones and just bang on the machines. But oddly enough, I knew the clinic was going to be here and he'd probably sit in the car until I got here. So, but I don't know. You know, I think training partners are great in that, you know, they can pick you up on certain days and you can pick them up on certain days. But at the end of the day, if like the only way you can get through a workout and train is with a training partner, I think you're, you know, screwed if that person doesn't show up, you know?
Oh, for sure. But like, that's the biggest thing you know, cause John, we've been there, like where it's just like, just a rough travel weekend and I'll come in and I'll just be like dog shit. And you're like, well, we got to do it. So fucking get your ass in gear and let's go. And if I didn't have that, I'd be honest with you, if you weren't there and it was just Nate, I'm sure we would be going to breakfast, and you fucking know we would.
Oh yeah, he tried to like hint on that shit to me today, and I was like, nah, man, we got to get this done. So he was regaling me with stories of his going to that cannabis convention deal and all the people he met, and was trying to talk to me a little bit about it. So I gave him about 20 minutes of talk time, and then I was like, yo, man, let's go hit this shit. So that's why I got him on the bamboo bark, just because I knew it would fucking shatter his system.
Nice. Well, you just text me a question. Let's do this one. This is going to be a good one.
All righty. This is from Fat Bastard 123. If you are not a coach, how much benefit would you get from attending a CrossFit football cert?
I just think here's the thing about not being a coach. Like at Vernon Hills, we had a gal there who was like, I'm not a coach. I'm strictly here for personal reasons. And like I told her out of the gate, I'm like, then be sure you're the most selfish person here. Like we will give every ounce of information, knowledge, coaching that you want to take from us. And I guarantee people don't take advantage of it. Tex, would you agree with that statement?
So yeah, absolutely.
Tex?
So yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
In like when we were in Ecuador, when Ben Oliver and I were in Ecuador years ago, I think it was the first time John let us off the leash. The guys were just like, it was a big. $795 was a huge investment for these people. And what the host had told us, and we're like, how strict are like timetables? He's like, honestly, like how long are you guys willing to go? Because these people, I guarantee, will stay all night if you guys are willing to stay all night, because they've just like mortgaged their lives to get here. It's not a very wealthy part of the country that these guys came from. So Ben and I were there from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m., 12 hours on day one, and then same thing on day two. Just 12 hours, 24 fucking hours of just coaching and working out and training with these guys. They fucking loved it. So I think it'd be a huge benefit. And obviously, when I went, my first time, I went thinking I was going to improve as a coach, which I did, but it changed the way I trained personally much more significantly than the way I coached, if that makes sense, which in the long term influenced how I currently coach people.
So we do get a lot of people that are currently on our programming. So maybe they coach kind of part-time, but first thing they say is, I'm on Grindstone, I'm on Jack Street, I'm on Field Strong. And I'm always harder on those people because this is the first time that they actually got eyes on for somebody, because most of those programs they do solo. So I try to put them in the best position to make sure that they are executing every movement that they've experienced with an actual coach yelling at them. So anybody that's coming there for an athlete reason, those are the people that we're the most hard on.
Tex, you said hard on like 6 times. John, you pick that up? Are we going to have to censor that?
I don't think so.
Well, I thought we were renaming or rebranding our podcast to Pod Hard. So I'm just kind of in that mindset.
Yeah. About that.
But I don't know, anything to pile on there, John, in terms of like being just an athlete coming to the seminar?
Yeah, I mean, when we originally started, the idea was that we were trying to create better coaches, and the idea that and I subscribe a little bit to like those who are athletes can and those who can't anymore usually become coaches. So, in the NFL, you play for a long time, you're a good player. And when you don't get to play anymore, you have the option to be a coach. And so, then at that point, your knowledge is useful and you go on and you get into a more kind of a teaching role and go that way. But, and when we started the seminar, it was the idea about increasing somebody's ability to coach an athlete. What's kind of fascinating with the CrossFit is everybody is still an athlete. They just might happen to own a gym where they coach people, which affords them the athlete lifestyle. So I kind of fucked it up a little bit. I thought that, these people were, when I say these people, I mean the CrossFit community was opening gyms because they were, okay with abandoning their fitness and abandoning themselves as athletes to become coaches. And that's just not the case. People in the CrossFit deal, I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, how many box owners are competitive CrossFit athletes and competing in the games? I mean, even guys that own gyms that are masters athletes, like, Andy Hendel, for example, owns, a couple gyms. I mean, box owner and coach. And here he is, competing and dominating the masters. So I kind of missed the mark a little bit in that and realized that most people were owning gyms because, realistically, they probably just wanted to train full time. And hey, it's great if we can open a gym. I get a place to train, get a bunch of people come in, I get to subsidize my training. And so that was kind of a miss your mark. So, we've gone back now and, designed the field not only to teach you how to coach, but also to train you as an athlete and to teach you how to do stuff. There's a lot of things that we teach at the football seminar that are universally applicable to not only CrossFit, but all athletics. The idea that you need to be able to squat, you need to be able to, move, and you need to be able to assess people to figure out where they're deficient. We have a short part of the seminar is based on, teaching sprint mechanics and how to do it. I mean, that needs to be a 2-day deal because I don't believe there's really anybody out there in this space right now that is teaching sprinting. There's people that, teach yogging or fast yogging, but, teaching somebody how to run, 800 meters or, a 5K, while valuable in terms of a workout for a CrossFit deal, might not be as valuable in terms of power and strength athletes. You need to teach somebody to put their foot in the ground, fucking punch and hammer, swing and drive, and fucking run as fast as you can for a short period of time. And unfortunately, fucking broken endurance runners that are 135 pounds are teaching people how to, run 5Ks and even 100 miles aren't really meeting the demands of which we do. So, even though we are teaching sprint stuff, we need to really go down that road. And I think that would be not only useful to a lot of athletes out there, but be useful to coaches. So, is there benefit to coming? Fuck yes. I've been to all the seminars, and I don't say this because it's mine, but I think it's probably the most universally applicable and the most useful of all the seminars in terms of training athletes. Now, you want to learn to get your level 1, you want to go to CrossFit level 1, great. You need to learn to Olympic lift, you need to do all these different things. They're all tools in the toolbox. But in terms of taking a program and being able to implement it to work with sport-specific athletes, or really athletes looking to use their skill for some form of sport or something bigger than what just the training, I think we got that market cornered. And if you haven't been, I think you're fucking up.
Dex, I'm hopping on the Instagram. There's a good amount of questions. Can we do like speed round shit?
Sure.
Like namely the one I want to speed round. If you guys don't mind, and John, you're grounded from this question because I think you're going to go off. So I have an inch leg length discrepancy in my femurs, and notice sometimes I'll even shift my weight into longer leg under a heavy squat. Is there anything I can do to correct this? Should I wear lifts on the shorter leg? Is this something that could be helped by more hip mobility? One, I would ask, make sure you actually have something, like if you've taken x-rays and had these measured, get a second opinion if you have one chiro who's telling you this and they're trying to just get you back to treat you each week. And at the end of the day, if, going back to our Dan John podcast, if you truly have discrepancy in length in your hips, maybe God didn't want you to squat low, and you should squat to where you don't shift and you look good, and you should stay in that range of motion, and you should give up on bilateral deep squatting and maybe do more lunges or step ups, things like that. That's for Brett.
That's all right. Next question, I guess, speed round. After you get an athlete to reach all main benchmark goals, like 2 times body weight back squat, as an example, what do you do with them after that? Speed round.
Jack, take it.
Why stop there? Or how about a double body weight lunge? So you keep training hard and keep going for it. Can't just be satisfied, I guess, with somebody else's double body weight back squat. Or maybe you can start depth jumping because you have that strength now.
Yeah, jump higher. How about that? Like make it be more dynamic. What do we got next, Tex?
And this is from Lost Angel 919. Who the fuck named ECAF? John.
What? Oh, who named ECAF?
Yeah, the rowing workout.
Oh, the rowing workout. ECAF is named for Aaron Cafaro. So ECAF is what Kelly Starrett called Aaron Cafaro. Aaron is a multi-gold medal winner, Berkeley grad, Golden Bear, and used to train at Starrett's gym. And ECAF, Aaron Cafaro was her brother, JD Cafaro, was a good buddy of mine, played football at Cal as well. She's Just a crush and rower, and that was a workout that Starrett had, and it was called ECAF, and that's who it's named for. So I named it ECAF because it was a rowing workout, and that was for Anchor Farrell.
All right. What kind of movements would you prescribe for a guy that works in an office and wants to improve posture and position while at work?
Kelly Starrett came out with a great new book called Desk Bound: Standing Up to a Sitting World. And Kelly put out a great book. I mean, we've been going through it. I'm not a huge fan of talking about things unless we actually use them and put them in. And Kelly's got a ton of great information in here about how to mitigate the problems associated with sitting too fucking much. So if you work in an office, I think you owe it to yourself to go find Dr. Kelly Starrett's new book called Desk Bound, and I'm gonna punch it to him. But in terms of things we do, try to get up and walk around, go stretch your calves, do a little thing. But I think Kelly really is addressing a market that hasn't been addressed, and I think he kind of owns the space. I'm fucking stoked for him.
And you know what? The one thing I did do, and I have still been doing, is I got out of a comfortable chair. So that's one thing he says, try to find the hardest surface to sit on because it'll promote shifting around and shit. And I'll tell you what, it's fucking made a difference. Just in that, because you're more prone to get up, walk around, stand during the podcast, stand when John's showing me YouTube videos of dogs and cats playing and stuff like that.
No, the only one we ever watch is the
Wrecking Ball?
Yeah, the chat roulette wrecking ball one. That's the only one. If I'm ever having a bad day, or I'm pissed off about something, I need to laugh, I'll watch that and instantly be in a good mood.
Oh, dude. That is a great video. So, I mean, basically all you got to do is Google chat roulette wrecking ball, right? It'll pop up. Just look for a dude that looks like Arm & Hammer in tidy whities.
Well, he's naked too, which is even funnier. But
all right, I'm going to jump on a speed round here, Tex. How do y'all program CrossFit Football's training? How do you know what to prescribe for each day? Honestly, when I first moved out to Newport Beach, I was really impressed with John's collection of pigeons in his backyard. So he has these carrier pigeons that just bring in workouts every day from all over the world, and they land every morning at 6 a.m. in his kitchen. They flutter down onto the breakfast table, and they drop a workout. And honestly, John then he couriers that. He has Nate drive that to me. Then I proofread it, make sure the pigeon spelled everything correctly, and then Callie posted on the website. So that's how the system works, really.
Well, you guys saw the movie Wanted, where they have those looms, and then there's information in the looms.
Wanted? Isn't Wanted the movie where they bend bullets?
Yeah, but you don't remember that the Secret Society of Assassins was actually started as weavers, as people making fabric, and the sacred weavers read some weird pattern, or there was some code within the looms that allowed them to know who to kill in the world to keep the balance up. Well, we have the same thing, but it's not a loom. It's more grilling steaks. So we grill steaks, and then the actual char grilling on the meat, is done in such a pattern that it gives, a secret code that allows us to unlock CrossFit Football workouts.
But one thing that does parallel the movie Wanted is we do bend our bullets as well. So that's a real thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Something that'll fly in a straight line that fast, you can alter the trajectory with actually quick flip of the wrist. And oddly enough, though, I don't know how many of you guys listening have ever tried to bend the bullet, but I am not, one of those, Angelina Jolie, rare weaving loom people, because I tried probably about 100 rounds to bend the bullet, and I couldn't get it to bend. So I also tried to do a drive-by shooting with a fully automatic weapon, and I couldn't hit anything either. So I'm always amazed why that's a good idea too.
Let's go ahead and just add a little more context to that, John. That you weren't drive-by shooting a human.
Oh no! What we were doing was we were at the range, and when I was doing some training with some people that do some stuff, and we actually were like, I wonder if you could hit anything. And we were driving by targets in a car, with full auto dumps and could not hit any of the targets. So I'm just any guys out there
I believe that
gang related, terrible idea. Just don't do it because you'll never hit anything. And that's why like you always see these dudes like go by spray bullets and like 4 blocks away, like kids are like falling. Like I'm like, yeah, they never hit anybody. So I think once again,
Hollywood has lied to us.
Well, like I don't know, man. There seems to be a lot of shit that's perpetuated that whether it be in the media, be in movies, or whatever it is, that gives fucking dipshits ideas that this is the way things should be done. And it just ends poorly because the people that are propagating it and putting it out know even less. So it's kind of like it kind of reminds me of like I don't even know, like people doing stupid shit just to see if fucking other people will do it. It's like, man, I wonder if we put out a movie where they bend the bullet, and then we'll see if people will try to bend the bullet. Like that's what I almost think that like majority of the world is just trolling stupid people to see if they can get people to do it. And then all of a sudden the news, it's like some guy killed another guy when he attempted to reenact a movie where they bend the bullet by, and that was a true fucking statement. It's like, do you remember when the Program came out, that bitchin' scene when they were like laying on the center of traffic? And then all of a sudden, what happened? A bunch of people went out and they laid in traffic and they all fucking died, or they got hit by cars. And I remember thinking when I saw that scene, that not one iota, not 1 ounce of me thought, man, we should go lay down in traffic and see what the fuck happens. And that's where I think like some of this stuff might be designed to be population control. So
I do want to go on a sidebar of a movie. Tex, do we have any other questions?
Not that irrelevant, but I had a movie revelation while I was on the flight back from Korea. So go ahead, Luke. And I got a solid one here.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that many months after its initial release, last night was the first time I had ever started to watch the new Point Break.
Oh, how was it?
And
you said started to watch.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, it's a great movie. And not in, like, the great that everyone wants to hear. And if people have seen it and probably like, oh, it's garbage. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. John, it must be, like, a level of rhetoric that I can't comprehend, because the exchange of dialogue, I keep looking at my buddies who are watching this. I'm like, what are they? Like, I can hear the words, but I'm just not following the plot, how this dialogue is relevant to it. Like, I just don't understand the spirituality of it, I guess. But God damn it, it's fucking great.
Well, I mean, I think, you've lived in California long enough to where the kind of the mystical Boda Zepha kind of dude, like, I just don't know if you've had enough interaction with that guy. Like, like part of that deal is, and maybe this is something with Turley. Maybe we'll just get like a Winnebago. We'll find Boda Zepha. We'll drive out to the Mojave, out to Joshua Tree, and we'll just let Turley get weird, and we'll see what happens.
Oh my gosh! But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna finish this fucking movie because you know me. I don't. It's like a burrito, man. Once you start it, you just gotta finish it. And
on a scale of like 1 to 10, with 10 being Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and 1 being AI, which I've personally nominated for the worst movie ever fucking made, is AI. I don't know if you guys ever saw AI. I hope you haven't. It's the worst. So I'm just wondering, like, where between Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory and AI does this sound?
And here's the thing. Here's what I really think. I'm going to give you 2 scores, okay? I'm going to give you a 4, and I'm going to give you an 8. Now, let me talk about the 4. The 4 is the fact that they tried to remake Point Break, and the characters share the same fucking, they share the same names as characters I'm familiar with from the original, with Swayze and
well,
Keanu,
you got
right? And,
you got Bodhi.
Here's the thing: it's like the Power Rangers. They're always wearing the same fucking colored like wingsuit. Then there's like if the guy's wearing a blue wingsuit, then next thing you know he's wearing blue fucking snowboarding shit. His snowboard's blue. Then his fucking surfboard is blue. It's like, what the fuck? And then, you know, if they would have just made this movie, here's the thing. If they would have called this movie fucking The Breaking Point, and they didn't rename these people after characters from the original Point Break, I think I would give it an 8, because I would have no grounds to compare it to, and I'd be like, wow, cool. This movie's retarded and stupid, and I love every minute of it, like the Fast and Furious. So it'll be up there in that 7-8 area. You know, that's, I guess, there's my soapbox moment for the day. But I still recommend everybody watch it.
Oh, I'm in. I mean, I'll tell you, after watching The Revenant, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie as intense as that movie. That's the movie Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar for, right?
Yeah, I mean, that movie is the proper intense. Like, everything that Point Break isn't.
I have not seen a movie that fucking intense. I really can't. There was a movie with Kevin Costner that was called No Way Out, or I think it was No Way Out, where he was like a Navy officer, and he was getting interrogated by these the government or whatever people about being a spy, and he's like no, and then like the very end, it's like such an intense deal. He like starts speaking Russian, and you're like, oh my god, he was a fucking spy. Like that movie to me was fucking intense, and I remember like seeing it and just being like, oh my god, you know, like the Revenant was, and dude, I really would like to have seen it in the movie theater, but unfortunately, I see cool things like Zootopia now, and Kung Fu Panda. But man, the fucking intensity level. I mean, dude, yeah, it was pretty epic. I definitely would chalk that up as one of the cooler movies I've seen in a long time.
So I opted not to watch that on a plane, so I could at least experience it at home theater. But I'll tell you what movie I did watch was Any Given Sunday. And it's been years, but then one of the characters, one of the offensive linemen, I was surprised to see the actor from the program that played Latimer.
Yeah.
So here's the revelation, is Latimer made it pro. So all those steroids fucking paid off. He was in the big leagues.
Well,
starting defense, seat at the table.
Okay, dude, let me tell you my program story. So I'm a rookie in the NFL, and that movie comes out. And I'm in Philadelphia, and my mom and dad are out there visiting with my girlfriend. And we all decide to go see the movie because my mom's like, oh, my God, we got to go see this movie. And so, just mind you, there's really no social media at this time. There's no, like we didn't really know about we just saw, Any Given Sunday, the real, NFL shit. So I'm a new NFL player. My parents want to go see it, so we go and see it. That movie is fun. Like, we're watching it, and I'm like, the whole time, as every scene, my mom and dad and my girlfriend are looking at me being like, is this the way it is in the NFL? And I'm like, I fucking hope so. I'm literally secretly hoping that there's cheerleaders at practice and fucking parties where dudes are getting their cars cut in half. And I'm like, instantly, and then as we're leaving, my girlfriend is fucking pissed at me. And I'm like, why? Can't figure out why she's mad at me. And she's like mad because she thinks that like this is the NFL and I haven't told her that that's what it's like. And I'm like, what? I was like, no, it isn't fucking like that. Like it's fucking nothing. So that movie was pretty awkward when it came out, but pretty cool in the same right. I mean, shit, it's a pretty good movie. So oddly enough, though, I did never get to go to one of those parties. I never saw a car actually get cut in half. And but the one thing you are right about Latimer, but I'll take it a step further and say that look at Captain America. You want to talk about like the biggest pro steroid movie in the world? Look at him. He's a skinny weed, doesn't get any chicks, nothing. They put him in a secret incubator created by a German fleeing Jewish doctor fleeing the Nazis or Hydra, whoever you want to say. And they put him in a chamber, put special serum in there, and turn him into like the fucking man. And I'm like, I'm watching this and I'm like, wait a minute. Like this is really what we're watching right now? And people are like, oh, Captain America. I'm like, so they basically put Captain America on a bunch of like crazy ass steroids and did some genetic modifications. And then he became the fucking man. I'm like, no wonder fucking people are taking all this shit. And then they're like, oh, but steroids are ruining the NFL. I'm like, no, they're not fucking ruining the NFL. Captain America's ruining the fucking world. So
I thought Captain America was all natty, bro.
Well, you saw him go into the incubator. And then like the chick, like, and my favorite is he's all like skinny dweeby, and then he comes out and like the hot chick's like all like, panties got wet, and like they're like wants to touch his chest, and I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Every kid out there, every young Nate Austin, 165 pounds, saw that shit and thought to themselves,
I got to get jacked.
No, I need to go get some protein. I need to go get some fucking whey protein. And then when they got,
are you telling me that the supplement lobbyists are behind the production of Captain America?
No, I'm just telling you the way. So all they thought to themselves is, oh my God, I got to go get some supplements. And then you know what? They convinced their mom or whoever to buy them the supplements. They took the supplements. It didn't work, and all it did is it gave them gas. So now they stink and they fart up a storm. And then they went to the gym and they like saw the big jack dude, and they were like, or like the big muscle dudes at the gym, and they were like, hey bro, what kind of supplements you take, bro? And the guy's like, supplements? What the fuck are you talking about? And the guy's like, well, what kind of protein you taking? And the dude just kind of laughs him off. So the kid gets butthurt. He goes home and he fucking gets on the internet and gets in some weird form and finds out that, that it's not supplements. It's something else. And next thing you know, next thing you know, you got an Instagram account and you're posting up shirtless selfies of yourself talking about you're about to fucking go get your swole on at the gym and that you're a warrior. Going to slay the weights.
And real warriors bang weights on Friday nights while other people are out having fun.
Well, it's because you got to train harder than me, bro. While you're at the club, I'm up at the gym working on my fitness.
Let's not regale our listeners with any more of our pet peeves about Instagram and the perpetual false images of vanity that people succumb to. Anything else?
I heard a great comment the other day that being famous on Instagram was like being rich in Monopoly.
Touche.
Yeah, feels good. Both. I don't have anything. I'm still going to see Captain America: Civil War. That looks.
So am I, obviously.
All right. Well, were we sitting at like an hour and a half here?
May 5th.
Yeah,
come out May 5th.
Show. I like these shows.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everyone else is. Well. Now what do you want to do?
I guess we'll just talk to each other next week.
So yeah, I'm out next week. I got the CSCCA conference.
Oh, that's right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I have to play the game, strength coach or diabetic. It'll be a great time.
Well, but here's the thing.
Diabetic.
If all these strength coaches and trainers and doctors know so much about nutrition, then why are they in such poor physical shape?
They make a choice, John, not to follow their own advice.
I just think, dude, I'm coming to this fucking realization that, I'm not coming to it. I've been at it, that it's almost like the minute you find yourself on the side of the majority, you need to take a look and think, fuck, something's wrong. Because, if it was as easy as just, calorie balance, it's got to be something more. It's got to, and that's why, going and getting blood work done with Dr. Tom and looking for risk factors and being like, we got to do something to, improve your insulin sensitivity or this. Just some, or even looking at some micronutrient deals, like why isn't your body working as efficiently as it can? So I don't know. But
John, when's the last time you talked to Tom?
On the phone or via text?
Either or.
10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah. So did he tell? Because I had a phone call with him yesterday, trying to get him we're going to try to do a little collaboration deal with him. But he was telling me about how he's revolutionized the cartilage game. He's so excited to talk to you about this thing. So you have a new experiment to jump in with him. Yeah,
he we texted yesterday on there was some really interesting information that came out that came out, but one of the things is in the NFL they prescribe and they inject guys with a drug called Toradol, which is like a liquid anti-inflammatory deal. And it's pretty amazing. You get a Toradol shot and instantly all the swelling in your body just fucking miraculously goes away. And you're like, damn, I'm ready to go out and kill somebody. But the problem is that some of the side effects of Toradol, have to do with cardiac arrhythmias, swelling in the heart and a bunch of weird shit. And so, now they're, finding NFL players that are having, heart issues, like a guy like Reggie White, goes to sleep and dies in his sleep. Norman Hand. I mean, all these guys are, having some, whether it be inflammation within the lining of the heart and dystrophy of the aorta, and they're just basically just going to sleep, not waking up. And so we were talking a little bit about, why this could be happening. Could it be happening from sleep apnea, all these different things? And, maybe one of the contributing factors would be, something like a Toradol, which is, kind of interesting in a lot of ways. But so just pretty fascinating stuff. So I've been putting together, I'm going out to a deal out in Vegas to go speak to the Gridiron Greats about, what things are, being offered in terms of, standard practice of care within medicine that might not be beneficial to players coming up. And, is there some genetic testing or some stuff that we can do to figure out if people are more susceptible to certain things? And then based on that, there needs to be an intelligent protocol put in place. Like if you would do some genetic testing and, find out that you have a propensity towards opiate addiction, it might not be a good idea to prescribe a guy fucking 200, Vicodin or Loratabs or whatever, following an injury. Or if somebody has, a greater propensity to perceived pain, then you know what, that's something that needs to be managed and understood. And I think the age-old deal of just burying your head in the sand and, fucking turning guys on with standard of care has really just failed. And so we're just looking to really do some cool stuff. And I think that the information today, like, Luke, on that interview the other day, they asked me repeatedly, would I let my son play football? And I really had a long kind of talk with myself on like some soul searching yesterday about it. And I realized I would let my son play football. Would I let my son play in the NFL? That's a completely different deal.
Yeah.
So I think where people, football, and they kind of, seamlessly kind of attack.
Let me ask you this, John. Why not the NFL? But couldn't you arm Cash with the people in the information to give you real-time feedback as to when, like, if he did make it to the NFL, when, like, you have to pull the ripcord before it's too late?
Yeah, I think all the greatest things I learned in life about, I learned from my mom and dad and playing football about teamwork, hard work, perseverance, just fucking go. And I learned all those, at a fairly decent age. And while the NFL was a very rich experience, I don't believe the NFL as an institution has any value, has any really care for the players. And I've always known that they didn't give a shit about us. But I would have a hard time, and if he's an adult and he wants to make that decision, I just have to, fucking try to mitigate it with the best information I can. But if he asked me my opinion, I'd be like, I wouldn't want you to work in a place for an organization or a company that really has no vested interest in your health or you as an individual. It's just a big meat grinder, and they throw you in, and when you can't do the job anymore, they just fucking hope you go away. And I really just don't believe that the NFL has a very much care for the players. And, that's been well documented. And the problem becomes that, the fans really don't give a shit. The fans are fans of the team. They're not fans of players. I was reading some stuff today, Conor McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor has made the UFC millions of dollars. He is by far their biggest draw. I mean, they had a pre-fight press conference when he was going. It was something like viewed by 360,000 people online. Without him, it's like 20,000. Like, the dude is the big draw. And you know what? He's like, I don't want to do this fucking media. You guys run me around this dog and pony show. I want to train and fucking hone my craft. And on top of it, I want to be paid commensurate with the amount of money that is fucking related to the work and the money I'm generating you. And what do? Fuck you, you're out. And people are like, Kim, it's part of the deal. It's part of the job. If you don't want to fucking do it, fuck you. And I'm like, fuck you, you fucking armchair piece of shit. The guy, and they're like, he has to do media. Why? So you can watch the fucking dancing monkey, and they can sit there on opposite tables and throw insults at each other, which are fucking retarded. And you listen to, Nate Diaz fought a great fight, but really not an exciting guy to listen to. and just a bunch of stupid comments, and like at least Conor McGregor's somewhat, he's articulate and he's actually exciting. I like listening to him talk trash, but like at the end of the day, like all of that stuff is about selling the hype of the fight, and I'm like, dude, you do not have to hype Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, UFC 200. All you have to do is put it up. Dude, I was so excited to buy that fight, and now I'm not going to buy the UFC 200 because McGregor's not fighting. I don't give a shit who's fighting. That's the only reason I watched the first one. I want to watch this one. And, and the problem becomes is, you have the NFL is such a fucking conglomerate and such a mob-type organization. I mean, you saw that bullshit they pulled with Tom Brady, that all of a sudden, you have our fucking great commissioner, Roger Goodell, who's, I don't know his penis is probably, proportionally, obviously proportionate to the size of his ego, is the only thing I can fucking equate it to. But like, they got to uphold fucking, really? You're going to fucking suspend Tom Brady for 4 fucking games over this bullshit Deflategate? It's such a fucking scam. And really, like, do the people really think that that's why the fucking Patriots won? Like, let's not talk about, let's talk about shit that actually fucking matters. And they're like, oh, well, the ball was softer and easier to catch. And I'm like, yeah, because that's the reason the Patriots were fucking winning. It's fucking nonsense, dude. Like the I don't know, like what professional sports has done a great job of is literally converting the masses into believing that the players are all these money grubbing fucking dipshits, and they fucking have perpetuated it so that the minute the player's like, hey, I'm not getting paid commensurate with what I'm doing, I want to get paid more. You're greedy. You fucking make enough, and the reason being is fucking jealousy. Fuck these guys. They're making all this money playing, but yet they have no understanding of the organization. And you're like, dude, the player, the shit that people don't even realize in the NFL is that the teams don't pay the salaries. The TV deal pays the salaries. So the NFL goes in and negotiates, and the fucking TV deal pays our salaries. That's what goes into the fucking salary cap. The teams are making fucking hand over fist money, like on every way. And people are like, well, they should. It's their business. And I'm like, well, then why does that not apply to us as players? Like you say, well, yeah, the team should make every money and the team should do this, but the minute that me as a player sign an unfair contract or fucking want to get paid commensurate, I'm a fucking greedy piece of shit. And I just, one, I don't understand it, and two, I wouldn't want to put my son in a situation where he was fucking fodder to fucking line somebody else's pockets. If he makes that decision, I'm going to arm him the best way he wants. And I think football is a great sport, and it's, taught me a lot, and I wouldn't want to rob him of that ability. But in terms of playing for the NFL and, going into their meat grinder and just being a fucking pawn in the greater scheme of a bunch of really, really rich men that don't value us and don't give a fuck about you as a fan, fuck them.
But John, one thing to consider too is and granted, it's totally different because it's not your physical well-being being sacrificed, but that's like any fucking Fortune 500 company as well. You know what I mean? They don't give a fuck about their people. It's all about the shareholders, and the shareholders are similar to the shareholders are essentially the fans of the teams, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem is that there is no humanity.
But the difference is you're not putting your life on the line, like your longevity, your well-being. It's just just your time and your quality of life.
It becomes fucking real when you have fucking Reggie White that dies at 43 years old from a fucking heart attack, or you have Junior Seau, and these fucking things, man, are very real, and that's fine. But you as an organization, the NFL, have a responsibility to
exactly
fucking take care of your people for the same fucking reason that the U.S. government has the responsibility to take care of the people that are fucking injured in war. A guy gets his legs blown off. You know what? They have a responsibility to fucking get him back. I mean, there's more. I'd always think when's enough? When is enough money enough?
All right. Well, we got any more questions?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. Well, boys, I guess thanks with the exception of you because you got your CCA deal. I guess we'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Tell you later.
Later.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. You can find all the programs discussed, including the blog posts, at our homepage, www.powerathletehq.com. Also, don't sleep on our Instagram account either. @PowerAthleteHQ is a great source that keeps you entertained, informed, and sufficiently distracted at work. Until next time, bye!